Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive. Today we're looking at something pretty unusual.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So it's this idea that there might be a connection, get this, between cross-dressing and being a great husband.
Ah,
Yeah, I know it sounds a little out there.
yeah, a little bit.
But that's what these deep dives are for, right? To explore these kind of off the beaten path ideas.
Yes. Right.
So our jumping off point is this article. It's called Why Crossdressers Make Better Husbands.
Okay.
And it's by Jenn der Bentson. Now, before we really get into it, I just want to say, our goal here isn't to tell anyone what to think.
Of course, yeah.
Or to say that everyone who cross-dresses is going to have this storybook marriage.
Right.
We're more interested in just kind of digging into the arguments that the author's making.
Okay.
And seeing what we can learn about relationships and identity, and maybe even about challenging some of those societal norms that we all kind of, live with.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good way to frame it. It's
Yeah.
really all about, exploring and trying to understand.
Exactly. Okay, so the article kind of starts right off the bat with this idea of emotional intelligence.
Okay.
And it argues that because cross-dressers are engaging with both, the masculine and feminine expressions,
Right.
they might develop a higher level of emotional intelligence than, someone who doesn't.
Okay, that's interesting. It makes me think about the work of Dr. John Gottman. He's you're a very well-known relationship researcher.
Mm-hmm.
And one of his big findings is that emotional intelligence is like one of the strongest predictors of whether a marriage is going to succeed or not.
Really?
Yeah. The couples that are really good at understanding each other's emotions
Yeah.
and responding to them in a healthy way,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to be way happier and more stable, over the long run.
Wow.
So I think there's definitely a connection there.
Yeah, so if we connect that back to what the article is saying,
Mm.
maybe it's that by exploring kind of both sides of the gender spectrum,
Yeah.
they become more aware of their own feelings,
Possibly.
but also more sensitive to what their partner is going through.
Yeah. And I think it challenges a lot of the traditional ideas we have about masculinity.
Oh yeah, for sure.
How often do we hear men being told to suppress their emotions?
Oh, all the time.
To be tough and stoic and, boys don't cry and all that.
Ugh, yeah, all that stuff.
So maybe, and this is what the article is suggesting, maybe cross-dressers are breaking free of that mold in a way,
Right.
allowing themselves to experience a wider range of emotions.
And so does that then make them better equipped to handle the ups and downs of a relationship?
Potentially, yeah.
Hmm.
The research actually shows that men who are comfortable expressing their emotions,
Yeah.
they tend to be better communicators.
Okay.
And they report higher levels of satisfaction in their relationships.
That makes sense. Now, the article also suggests that cross-dressers gain this unique perspective on women's challenges
Oh, interesting.
by actually experiencing some of them firsthand. Have you ever seen anything like that in your work?
It does make me think about empathy,
Okay.
which is so crucial for any healthy relationship.
Right.
It's like that saying, walk a mile in someone else's shoes,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's just figuratively.
Right.
It helps you understand their struggles so much better
Yeah.
and appreciate their strengths too.
And the article is talking about it very literally. It talks about the discomfort of high heels,
Wow.
the pressure to conform to certain beauty standards.
Yeah.
Things like that.
And I think those kinds of experiences can be really eye-opening.
Yeah.
They can challenge those assumptions we have about gender roles
Right.
and what each partner is, supposed to be responsible for.
That actually ties into the next point the article makes. So they argue that embracing this identity
Mm-hmm.
leads to a stronger sense of self.
Okay.
So do you think there's a connection between self-acceptance and relationship success?
Absolutely. When you're comfortable in your own skin, you're less likely to project insecurities onto your partner
Oh, interesting.
or to, always be looking for external validation.
Right.
You're bringing your whole authentic self to the relationship.
That makes me think about those relationships where one person is always trying to change the other person.
Yeah.
Or always looking for approval. That can't be healthy.
It's a recipe for resentment and conflict.
Yeah.
The article even mentions that insecurity can lead to more arguments.
Oh,
And
really?
it's in understandings, yeah.
So maybe if cross-dressers have already gone through that journey of self-discovery
Yeah.
and acceptance,
Right.
maybe they're coming into the marriage with a stronger foundation to begin with.
It's definitely a possibility.
Yeah.
And, think about the courage it takes to embrace an identity that might not be widely accepted.
Oh, for sure.
That kind of resilience can be so valuable in a relationship
That's
for
true.
facing life's challenges, both as individuals and as a couple.
Yeah. I'm seeing how these like seemingly separate qualities are starting to connect. It's like not just a list of traits. It's more like a web of interconnected strengths.
That's a great way to put it.
Okay, so we've talked about emotional intelligence, empathy, self-acceptance.
Right.
Now the article takes a bit of a turn, and it suggests that cross-dressers might actually be more romantic.
More romantic.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, it's an interesting claim,
Yeah,
and I wouldn't want to generalize.
of course.
But I can see how, like, exploring different aspects of gender expression could influence how someone approaches romance.
Okay, so the article talked about how they might find joy in like dressing up or planning like special occasions, or just like being more aware of those little gestures that show love and appreciation.
Yeah, those are all important parts of a romantic connection. And remember, we were talking about emotional intelligence earlier.
Right.
Being in touch with your own emotions and understanding your partner's. That can definitely make those expressions of love more thoughtful and meaningful.
So maybe it's not about conforming to some specific idea of what romance is supposed to be.
Yeah.
It's more about being aware of what makes your partner feel loved.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that kind of awareness can lead to a much deeper connection and intimacy.
This is already making me rethink some of my own assumptions about relationships.
That's great.
But there's more, right?
Yeah.
The article also talks about communication skills.
Oh,
What do you think?
well,
Is there something about this experience that might make someone a better listener or communicator?
if you think about it, navigating a non-conforming identity often means having some really difficult conversations.
Oh, that's true.
You have to advocate for yourself,
Yeah.
educate others,
Yeah.
maybe even deal with rejection or misunderstanding.
Oh, absolutely. So maybe those experiences help them hone their communication skills in a way.
It's possible.
Yeah.
They might be more comfortable expressing their needs,
Okay.
setting boundaries, and resolving conflicts.
Interesting.
All those things that are important for a healthy relationship.
Yeah, that's fascinating. And it really challenges those stereotypes about men being bad communicators.
It does. And the article goes even further,
Really?
connecting this to breaking free from toxic masculinity.
Oh, wow.
What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, we've all seen how damaging those rigid, unhealthy ideas about manhood can be,
Right.
both to individuals and to their relationships. So if cross-dressers are challenging those norms, could that create space for more open and honest communication in their partnerships?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And something we should definitely explore further.
Okay, yeah.
Well, the article goes on to suggest that cross-dressers, journey of self-discovery, it might actually inspire their partner's personal growth too.
Oh, that's interesting. How so?
Well, just imagine being in a relationship with someone who's so comfortable,
Yeah.
defying societal norms and embracing their true self.
Right.
Don't you think that could be kind of contagious?
I can see that. Yeah, it's like their courage rubs off on their partner.
Exactly.
And gives them permission to maybe explore different parts of their own identity.
Yeah, and that kind of mutual growth,
Right.
that self-discovery, it can really deepen the intimacy in a relationship
Oh, yeah.
and create a more dynamic partnership.
It's almost like they're both breaking free from those, boxes that society tries to put us in.
I like that. Yeah.
Let's be real for a second. No relationship is perfect.
Of course not.
And I imagine couples with a partner who cross-dresses probably face some unique challenges too.
Oh, absolutely.
Right.
Even with the best intentions in communication,
Yeah.
every couple's going to have their hurdles.
Right.
And as open-minded as society is becoming, there's still the possibility of judgment or discrimination.
Yeah.
Think about, family gatherings
Oh, yeah.
or even just going out in public.
It's like an added layer of complexity
Yes.
that most couples don't have to deal with. So how do you think that impacts the relationship dynamics?
Well, I think it requires a really strong foundation of trust and support.
Okay.
Both partners need to be on the same page about how they're going to handle those situations.
Right. Okay, before we wrap up this part of the deep dive,
Sure.
I think we need to address the elephant in the room.
Okay.
We've been focusing on the potential positives.
Right.
But are there any risks
Mm-hmm.
or like red flags that we should be aware of when it comes to relationships with someone who cross-dresses?
That's a great point. It would be irresponsible of us to only present one side of the story.
Right.
You know, the article we're discussing focuses on the strengths these individuals might bring to a marriage.
Yeah.
But it's really important to remember that every relationship is unique.
Of course, yeah.
We can't make sweeping generalizations.
Yeah.
And say that every single person who cross-dresses will automatically be a fantastic partner.
Exactly.
And just like in any relationship, you need to be attentive.
Right.
Communicate honestly.
Yeah.
And make sure that your values and goals are actually aligned.
We've been on this really fascinating journey exploring this idea that cross-dressers could have certain qualities that make them amazing partners.
Yeah.
We talked about emotional intelligence and empathy, even some of the challenges these relationships might face.
Right.
Now, I want to zoom out a little bit in this final part and look at the bigger picture. What are the societal implications of all this? What can we learn from these unconventional relationships?
Well, I think this whole conversation really just highlights how strong our gender norms and expectations are.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And, by challenging those norms, cross-dressers are kind of forcing us to confront those often unspoken rules about what it means to be a man or a woman.
It's like they're holding up a mirror to society saying, hey, maybe these boxes we've created are a little too small.
Exactly.
Cross-dressers are kind of paving the way for a more inclusive and equitable society for everybody.
I think so, too.
It's like their personal journey of self-discovery is rippling outward and creating positive change. It's pretty inspiring.
I completely agree. These seemingly unconventional relationships, they can teach us so much about ourselves, about our partners, and about creating a more just and accepting world for everyone.
So what would you say is the main takeaway message for our listeners?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Yeah, what do you want them to walk away with after this deep dive?
If I had to distill it down to one key idea, it would be this. Be more open-minded.
Okay.
Challenge those assumptions you might have about gender, about relationships, about what it means to be a good partner.
Yeah.
You might be surprised by what you discover.
That's great advice. And maybe we can all learn something from those who are willing to be different.
Yeah.
To challenge the norms.
Right.
And to show us that, love and connection can thrive in the most unexpected places.
Beautifully said.
Yeah.
I think it's time to wrap up our deep dive. Thank you for joining us on this exploration of unconventional love and societal change.
We hope this conversation has sparked some new ideas for you.
Yeah.
And encouraged you to think a little differently about the world.
Absolutely.
Until next time.